Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment, gentlemen and ladies. I love this part because, again, it gives me an opportunity to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things very expensive in my eyes. Time. 24 hours has been offered to every man and every woman on this planet. How we utilize time, what we do, I suggest you learn to fall in love with her. She will teach you much. And I had to learn to love her because it changed everything about me. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It created the individual that is before us. And I want to honor Sasha because she's coming and spending both of these precious commodity here with us at Threads of Enlightenment. Sasha, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Ken. It's such a pleasure for me.
It's an honor, truly is. I always ask this question to everyone that shows up, if you will, that present, because I believe that as I get older and I am walking this walk, there's no such thing as coincidence. Everything is ordered and planned, and we participate in it. And I had mentioned to you that there are two journeys that we go to. The first one is independent journey, and then the last is the interdependent journey. And both journey, once we activate them, will continue until we die. My question to you is, how do you serve mankind?
How do I serve mankind?
Yeah.
Through sharing knowledges. So it's very simple. I don't know, like very, very obvious answer, I guess.
And as you, I love that you sharing your knowledge, if you will. And one of our custom is, because my goal here at Threads of Enlightenment is to allow the audience the opportunity to get to know you. And that's why I wanted to thank you for coming and affording us the opportunity to learn from you and learn of you. And one of the very first spaces that you and I reside in while we are here on this planet is that unit called the family. And in the family unit, we learn a couple of things as we're moving through life. One of the first things that we learn is ability to communicate. We learn our skill sets, if you know. We also learn behavior here. We began to develop our belief system, all of those wonderful things right there in this unit called the family. What was your family like?
Well, I would say that my family developed through years. I have an amazing mom, and I think she's like a representation of sort of a Wonder Woman. But when I was a child, I would say that I was struggling with my father figure because he was going through some tough times and he was an alcoholic and he was struggling with a lot of things. But as for now, my parents are still together and my father is not drinking anymore. He's a decent person, with a proper job. And yeah, I think they kind of found that balance and harmony. And I would say at the moment, I do have also the best father in the world because he cares a lot and I am his little princess, even though I'm not that little anymore.
That's
But yeah,
wonderful.
that was part of my struggle from the young age, this relationship with father and in general, like seeing this male figure as sort of a threat, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why the title of this show is Threads of Enlightenment, because I believe threads start at a young age and they're part of our makeup, if you will, part of our identity that it walks with us as we are moving through life. And when we look back in hindsight, we will see that these threads are much part of us. They've been weaving through our life from a very short, or if you want to say a short period. 80 years, 90 years is not a short period in my mind. And so here you are, you had a challenge relationship with your dad, and dad has matured. He has gone through his walk. And that is always a beautiful story to be a part of. How did you, and you said it was challenging. How was it challenging with your dad, that communication piece with you guys? How did that affect you as a young individual? We see mom as the Wonder Woman, and the male figure in your life has been some of a challenge. How did you relate to that individual known as dad as a young girl?
Well, it is actually a very obvious psychological thing. It's like what happens. It makes a girl an achiever. So, yeah, when you are lacking a strong presence of masculine energy, like protective energy, and instead you have an example of a loving but still strong woman, it's a very common, well, actually, there are usually two paths to look for a daddy or to become a strong woman. So I chose the path of being an independent woman and I became an achiever, trying to prove that, like, yeah, I don't need anyone in my life, that I'm strong and I'm capable of anything. And surprisingly, it was actually working. It was working very well. The only problem, I didn't feel happy and it was bringing a lot of tension again, obviously. I don't know, like when I'm speaking about it now, things are very obvious. They were not back in days,
No.
but like, yeah, it's like a
Yeah, see,
very common
yeah.
situation.
Hindsight is always a good way to look at things when we have the opportunity, because then it looks normal. But back in the day, if you will, we were emotionally charged and it was a different type of relationship, if you will, insight and feeling, so forth. Here's this young girl, chose the side of becoming an achiever. How did this achiever, strong woman, relate? What was her relationship towards others outside of the family? How did you show up to friends as you are growing within your life and becoming an individual independent from mom and dad?
You know, I have an interesting thing about friends because I was always sort of limited with friends, and it was happening from the childhood. For example, we were living in the private sector with just like houses, and in all that huge area, there were only like two other girls of my age. The rest were like elder people.
Hmm.
So, like, and this pattern, it keeps happening through my whole life. And yeah, whenever I have a chance to have friends, I try to be kind and I try to actually make friends, but it always was a challenge. So through years, I've learned how to, like be easy with it. When people come, you're happy. When people go, you're still happy. It happens, it's like riding a train. Like some people get in on one station and they get out on another station. While you're riding together, you're having some fun. But like, yeah, when they are off, it's also okay. But focus on enjoyment when you are with people. And for example, we're talking about university. I was like a high performer, like other people. I mean, like it was a competing situation. So not everybody wanted to be friends with me and not everybody could have like stand nearby.
Yeah. Well, it was very insightful, all that you shared, because it does contribute to the development of you, the individual, all of it. The fact that there are not that many young women at your age that at the time. And so how one relates to all of that, I think it helps in the creation of who we are. Here you are, you're heading towards college, as you say, and you are going into your field of study, because we're moving through life, growing and getting older to independence, as they say, you know. What study did you pick? What field of study did you pick, Sasha, and why did you pick that field?
That's probably also an interesting part. I decided to become an oil and gas engineer. So
Hmm.
those who create pumps to extract oil. I was good at math and I was good with technical stuff. I was good with languages as well. But to go with this like language thing, you had to do history, but I hated it at that time. So I decided to choose my mathematical part, my logical mind, and go for engineering. And the oil and gas university seemed to be the most beautiful one. When I arrived there, everything
Hmm.
was, like so nice, marble place, everything new, classes, equipment. I was like, yeah, I feel like I would love to study here. And that, that was the choice. I didn't think that much. I was just like logically weighing the chances, like where I could do it. So yeah,
And so you got there and you went to school and you began to learn input data as to that specific field of study, and you're moving through life, and you graduated, you have this degree. What did Sasha do?
I didn't graduate. Along the way, I started thinking that, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be an engineer. What kind of job I can have? And like my best choice to make a good start, it means that I'm going somewhere up north to the station and I work 24/7 for like 1 month straight and then have 1 month off with workers who are, probably not educated at all. They are just workers there, like the muscle power and what else? Like they cursing and stuff. So and that's how I supposed to spend my first like at least 5 years of career. And that made me think that this is not what I want to do. So I decided to take some time off and think about it. Then I came back, but at that time already I started doing photography. And it started picking up so well, which I didn't expect. It's not like nowadays, everyone, oh, take a course on photography. Or like, yeah, here, buy a camera. Back in days, it was, oh, 20 years. Yeah. So like, yeah, started doing photography and like I was doing it for fun, but people started offering me money for that. And I was like, okay, maybe I will just continue with it because combining like studying, working in the office because I had to support myself and doing photography was too hard. So something was supposed to be off. First was off, like evening education, and then office job was off within like I think less than 1 year.
Wow. That is an impressive jump when you're thinking from someone who is engineer and then to where it's more so a clinical way of thinking, if you will, with an engineer. And then you have a photographer whose approach to looking at something is totally different than an engineer would look at something. When you made that switch with Sasha, how did you manage it? How was Sasha when she did that? How did she feel?
Skipped an important part that like I was singing as a kid, I was performing, I was in theater, I was drawing, I was doing clothes. So as a child, I was kind of like multi-talented child in a way. I wouldn't say
Uh-huh.
that I was like incredible, but like I was doing great at school. I was participating in, this like math competitions and stuff. And I was even winning something like on regional, like it's called like Olympiads, something like
Yeah.
this. And the same time, I was like in the theater and everywhere. And I don't know, like I had like everything, but like, yeah, to pursue the career. I actually also wanted to go as a designer, but for that, like study as a designer, but for that, you had to have like art school finished. And I
Hmm.
didn't have that. So this path didn't work. So I just like, from other choices, I was like, okay, I'm good at math. I'm going to be an engineer. So
So that's
art was always there.
Yeah. Okay. So art was always there. So you had the that because to me, stuff like art and the fields that we study, Sasha, I think it has a great deal to do with our personality, and it allows us to see and approach situations thinking a certain way. When we are aware with art, to me, art opens up one of the most powerful areas within the human being, and that is the ability to imagine things, one's imagination. Because when one looks as an artist, we are taking a canvas that is empty in many ways, whether it's a performance or, painting or whatever it is, music. That canvas is empty, and then you begin to input one's imagination, if you will, and began to expand. And that part of our brain and our thinking assists us greatly when we are in our personal development work, because the imagination is such a powerful tool to utilize when one begins their journey, if you will. to become that creator. So here you are, you're exposed to both the linear thinking in the sense of engineering style, because I studied electrical engineers. So I know what you're talking about. I'm also a musician. So I understand that world that we linger in, that we are able to see things from so many different point of views, vantage points, if you will, with that type of right and left brain awakening and so forth. So here you are, Sasha. Things are doing good. You're enjoying it, and life is great because life has a way of coming into our space to say, "Hey, wake up." So as we're moving here, this young girl, she's doing well. What was your outlook in Sasha? What did you want to do with this beautiful woman that is strong, independent? She is doing her photography because in those quiet times, Sasha, we are talking to ourselves. We are beginning to awake as to what is this thing all about? What is Sasha's dream was at that time, and where did she want to go?
Well, honestly, I think I was young and I didn't have like that big. I wanted to travel and I was traveling. I wanted to be featured in magazines and I was featured in magazines. So, I kind of was living this kind of life when you dream of something
Hmm.
and it turns into reality. Like nowadays, people make a lot of money on these kind of courses, like manifest your future and it
Yeah.
will happen. So back in days, I just didn't know that I can make money out of it. I was going to travel in Asia for a couple months in a row. Nowadays, it's a common thing. Back in days, it was insane. Even my
Yeah.
mom, like the most tolerant person, she was like, maybe 2 months is too long. I was like, everything's gonna be fine. And I calculated what the number, like what amount of money I will need to have with me. And you wouldn't
Hmm.
be surprised. You would be surprised that like the day I was leaving, I had the exact number on my bank account.
Wow.
So
That's
like it
awesome.
was working like so precise that sometimes I was surprising myself. I was like, wow. So I was very lucky and things were going very smooth, like whenever I wanted something. But as I said, like, yeah, of course I was working hard. I was working hard for that. There was a lot of tension there. We're going great until I started actually questioning. So like, what were your dreams? And then I was like, okay, I can actually have anything what I want. If I want to have like a private jet, I can have a private jet. I just need to work for it. The problem was that I didn't feel like working for that. I like traveling, like, yeah, as I said, like I was traveling and like at some point I decided that like maybe I can live in travel mode. And I did that for like a year and a half. I was moving around and I was able to earn. People were just like traveling to the destinations where I was because they wanted to have pictures with me.
Hmm.
I was very spoiled back in days. So yeah, like everything was going and I was like, okay, so what to want? It's like anything, any kind of material goods doesn't excite me. Like traveling, after a while, it doesn't excite you because
Hmm.
like you keep moving, and after a while, you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, where am I?
Hmm.
It's like you feel confused about it, and yeah, that was like the beginning of a depression because I was like, okay, what's next? I
Yeah.
can have it. I can have
Yeah.
whatever I want. It's like I can earn money. I can earn good money, but I just don't want. I don't
Yeah.
want anything. And that was a problem. So I felt that like I'm missing the important thing. Like, what's the meaning of my life? I was like, okay, but like, what is it? Like, why do I need to wake up in the morning to do what? Earn more money? What for? So that was the crisis. It was the beginning of the crisis for me.
Yeah. Isn't that a great place? I think, to me, in my observation, in my life, my journey began when I became an observer, meaning
I was
just like
always
you,
an observer.
in the sense where I began to, where you were, what is this about? What is this about? Why am I here? Why am I presenting? Because I tell people, all of us are creators. We manifest things all day long. The lifestyle that you are in right now, you manifested it. We come and we make all kinds of excuses or whatever, but where you are today, you manifested it. It was the product of your thoughts. and your belief system, and it manifests. That's how we make things. And then when you begin to dive deeper into that, as to, okay, why is this here? As you said, the natural things are the material things began to lose their taste. And we began to look into it and say, what is it that this individual wants? When you began to look at that individual right there, and you says you began to get, your journey began. That depression, if you will, that thought, why were you getting depressed? Why were you getting depressed and not anything else?
I was getting depressed because I couldn't find the meaning for my life.
Yeah. And so here you
Well,
are, because you couldn't find it. You picked, because I wanted to know the genesis of it, as to how we allow certain thoughts to begin to dominate our life, in a sense where mine was shame, Sasha. Shame took hold of me. And I remember my my whole journey, and when it came and how it came. Shame, disappointment, and a bunch of other stuff, all the things that hit when I began my journey. And it changed my life as to how I began to see the world. Okay, here you are, and you began to, not sure. How long was that period of your life when you began to walk that walk? And what was the incident, Sasha, that began to help you to become who you are today?
So as I said, every morning I was questioning myself, like, why do I even need to get up from bed? Because like everything is meaningless. I can say that at that moment I had that was my second experience with astrology consultation. First one was something very random. Then this one was for a reason. Because I came with the exact question. I was like, what is the meaning of my life? Because this was the only question that bothered me. And it was like the quintessence of my existence. I really wanted to know. Astrologer wasn't as talkative as I am, for example. And it was a man, maybe because he was a man. The answer was to serve people. And I was like, yeah, what do you mean? So I didn't get much clarity at that moment. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, anything else you can suggest me or something? He was like, maybe try to dig into spiritual knowledges. And I had like zero idea of like what is like. I was smoking and back in this. I was like, what do you mean spiritual knowledges? Like yoga, this kind of shit or what? It's like, yeah, something like yoga. I
Hmm.
was like, okay, maybe. And then what happened? You see, with all these thoughts or whatever, so I started getting to the point that I don't want to do photography anymore. That I am tired of these girls trying to pretend to be someone who they are not, like with trying to, don't get me wrong, I always loved my clients and I was doing the best for them and I was like showering them with love while I was taking pictures of them. But at the same time, I was noticing and observing. You said observer. I was an observer through my whole life, probably. Yeah. So, like, I was observing people feeling insecure and
Hmm.
trying to find this solution. And photography, it was like, like a band-aid
Yeah.
which helps you for a month. And like, yeah, I was providing that band-aid, but I was like, yeah, okay, but it's not a solution. And like, I don't want to do that. I was doing weddings. Half of the weddings, they were not because people loved each other. And for me, it was like so obvious in the way how people interact, like how they touch, how they speak, that like probably it's, I don't know, like they rather got pregnant or like they trying to buy a house or something, like together it's easy something, or like one is manipulating. So like I would say like 50% they kept me in
Yeah.
business for a long time because I was like, okay, I can celebrate their love, but the rest was like bringing more and more frustration. So with all this meaning crisis and stuff, and like seeing all this artificial representation of self through photography. And like that was the moment when social media, they started developing and growing and people wanted to show how amazing
Yeah.
they are. And I was like more and more frustrated with the whole thing. I decided that I'm gonna stop doing photography. And I was like, yeah, I'm this lucky girl. Something will turn out, like things will get sorted. Guess what? Like year after, I was completely broke. Yeah, it was already impossible to get back to photography because I was working with, like real people. And of course, because they do like photo shoots for their families and stuff, they already found replacement for me. So they already started like doing it with other people. Maybe this part of the story wasn't that important.
No, it is because it is the genesis of things. And it's very important, Sasha, because it is, I understand exactly what you're talking about. And the world, low self esteem has captured many of the people on this planet because they are, and social media has allowed those that have low self-esteem to seek validation through those performance that you're talking about, the pictures, the videos every morning. They're seeking validation by the posing and all those different things like that. And that seems to be one of the energies that have captured the world because I see them. I was just talking to a friend of mine and talking to my son. I'm up early in the morning on the beach here in Vietnam, walking, and people are doing their exercise. Then you have all these girls are dressed fancy clothes on the beach, doing videos and posing at 5, 6 in the morning. And you're looking at it going, that is, that's
Different.
not,
That is
and you're
different.
like, that is not life. I mean, it is incredible. But that is the world that we live in. And so here you are, you're in an opportunity that you saw the still part of it, if you will. And you were coming into at the same time, you mentioned the video part of it with Facebook and all the other parts of it. And you're talking about that. When you saw that and you began to question and began to want answers to you, and what did you begin to pull into your space, Sasha, to begin to, because again, the advice that he gave you was do, personal development stuff, yoga stuff, what did you started to pursue? Because you ended up in the realm of astrology, and that's where you had your two encounters, as you mentioned. What did you do to pursue to help you to begin to move through your dark time?
So as I said, like after about a year of like hoping that things will work out somehow magically as it was happening before that,
Mhm.
like I will find my path or something, everything is going to be great, some new opportunities will come along as they always did previously. And a year after, I found myself broke. As I said, like getting back to industry wasn't easy. For some reason, people found the replacement and stuff, and like those doors, they were closed unexpectedly, and like things were not working. And that made me even more depressed because like this was the first time in my life when I seriously didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
As things were, I wouldn't say were like really, really easy, but still, if I can compare then like the previous like chapter of my life, it was really easy. It was like a dream life. And then suddenly nothing works. So a lot of questions arose in my head and I started looking for answers. I was doing different things. Astrology wasn't the only tool, but I decided, okay, well, if that astrologer didn't give me some clear explanation, maybe I need to study astrology. So I started studying astrology, numerology. I became a certified yoga teacher, a Reiki master teacher. I was playing with tarot and like any kind of, a Lila game. And like I was trying everything to find these answers. And honestly, only the development of my education in astrology field gave me the answers of what's going on. Actually, like what's happening, like what happened. And technically, the period happened, the change of period happened. We live through our planetary periods and they activate different things in our lives. So for me, it was this like drastic change because sometimes things like periods change, but they still keep activating similar things. But for me, the change was like it was totally different, like a completely different area, completely different field. And I was like, okay, so and there the part of being an educator got activated, but you cannot be an educator if you don't know something well. So
Yeah.
then started the part of learning and like digging deeper. And why I asked you before we started, like if you have any idea of astrology, because astrology itself, it's a spiritual practice.
Hmm.
Because the goal of astrology is to bring person to God. Like some people don't like God or something, like, okay, higher forces, universe, or whatever it is. Astrology, it explains how the world works, like why things are happening in this way, what is the reason behind, and what you need to do with it. And for me, when I started studying my chart, astrology in general, for me, that first of all gave me a lot of explanation. It's like, and I was like, okay, now I see what this simple word serving, what's the meaning behind there?
And as you looked into astrology, as you stated, and you began to see things as to how it relates to you, what did you begin to notice about Sasha? Because here's this girl that was a manifester, that everything was doing good, and then all of a sudden, nothing. She's just having a wonderful time. But that, again, the thread is to push you towards the answers, and the venue by which you started seeing those things is through astrology. Talk to us about that particular time right there. You're new, you're studying, you're bringing the data, and you're seeing that it is now, you're getting insight as to you within that data. How did that correlation begin to change Sasha to cause her to become who she is today?
Well, first of all, the most important thing probably was that when you study astrology, you realize that your chart is a representation of your karma, the results
Mhm.
of your previous actions. And whatever happens in your life, it's well deserved, or partially it was chosen by me as a soul.
Mhm.
And it was, first of all, the path to finding love for my father, because I was like, okay, this is the father who I selected, the father who served the purpose. For
Mhm.
example, in the chart, the planet Sun is responsible for father, for ego, for self-esteem. Yeah, so all these things are connected. And
Mhm.
when we have an afflicted Sun, that's what I do in my chart. So what I was having issues with father, like father with problematic life. I was an achiever. I had an inflated ego
Mhm.
because things were going easy. And when the period changed, it smashed my ego because whatever I was doing, it wasn't working. No manifestation, nothing, not anything what I was trying previously, it just wasn't working. So yeah, was the moment of I wouldn't say it was easy. Like humbling was happening, and it's still happening,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
this is the afflicted son, and like and you see these things, they are connected. And I was like, okay, so I had to have this kind of father. And then when I checked the chart of my father,
Mhm.
and you probably wouldn't be surprised, but he has the exact same pattern with his father. He wasn't talking to his father for how long? Yeah, for a very long, since he was like 20.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for me, I was like, okay, I started understanding my father better because the chart revealed his personality. And I was like, okay, that's why you are this way. And that gave me acceptance. It helped me on my path to finding love to him. And I decided to make it a goal, still an achiever, yeah, to actually make a change there. And I was working hard on like generating this love for my father. And what happened? He actually reconciled, yeah, so with my grandfather. So they
Mhm.
made peace and they spent 1 year together as father and son until grandfather passed away.
Wow. That's a beautiful story.
It is. And as an astrologer, of course, I checked the period. I was like, okay, was there like any change of period? And it wasn't. He still was going through like a tough one. So when we start working on ourselves, then we can influence karma of the whole generation.
Yes. And you had mentioned basically generational. There are several types. There's the spiritual generational thing that comes down. There's the physical stuff as well, cancer or whatever, all those other diseases that they say, diseases that are within the DNA of the family. There are all kinds of those type of threads that tie us. And as you said, as you began to investigate it and you began to look at dad's information and his data, you saw that there was a generational piece tied into that manifested in your life. And you having the knowledge that this existed is able and afforded the opportunity to change. And I tell people there's always an individual, Sasha, that within the family unit that is given the opportunity to change the trajectory of the family in the sense of the generational curses, if you will, or the manifestation of things within that family lineage. And you are that one. And those ones
Everyone can do
sometimes,
that.
yeah, everyone. No, I'm saying within your family, there's always one that goes through some of the hard times and begins to question those things. And that family, you have that opportunity to change it within that family. One of us always get picked. You got picked, and here you are, you saw it, and you are able to influence the change. And that's what happens is you begin to influence the changes and it begins to manifest. But that influence begin with us. We are the ones that once we see it and we are aware of this thing, it gives us an opportunity to work on ourselves. And as you stated, when we work on ourselves, you saw the outcome of how it began to energetically affect your dad, your granddad, change the trajectory of your family's lineage now within the realm of that particular issue. So here you are, Sasha, you saw it and you have proof that it works and you're like, here. How did that manifest now as you began to implement it, as you said, for you to become a teacher? How did it motivate you, if you will, for you now to begin to share this knowledge with others?
And well, there are four types of motivation for each person. It will be something different. For me, it's always Dharma. It's serving. That's what that person was telling me. And it always was. Whatever I was doing in life, I was doing for people. I was doing photography for people. Like I never worked for like corporations or something. I was doing it for people to see them happy. And with all the knowledges, why yoga? I was teaching yoga. I enjoyed it. I was doing it for people. Then COVID happened, and I didn't like to do it online because I kind of like to to have a live interaction with people. So that path kind of faded. I was like, okay. Now, what can I do? I can share knowledges. Yeah, I can share all this like Vedic knowledge, wisdom, like this philosophy, what stays behind astrology. Because people think astrology is like, oh, you're a Leo, you're Aries, something like this. It's actually a huge philosophy behind there. When you really dig deeper and understand who you are. Yeah, we'll start with like some psychological traits and like periods and stuff. But the biggest part is what to do with all that. And this is quite a long conversation always because people need to start like feeling like what's going on, that they are here not only to buy a car or a house or
Yeah.
fall in love. There is like something more to happen. Oh yeah, and I was like, okay, like that's what I'm ready to do anytime, any time of the day, for free or not. Like yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just like I just feel that what excites me. That I just cannot not do it. Yeah. Is it the proper amount of not?
Yeah. I think I tell people this, Sasha, that when we begin, if you will, we use the gift, but there's a point in time in our journey where our gift begin to use us, and where we are captured, and we are because we love what we do, and it's amazing how people will that energy that we send out because we have that gift. People will be pulled to you and I, and the gift that is within us begins to use us to begin to bring knowledge to others as to who they are. So here you are, Sasha. You've seen it work. we know from our conversation that it worked in your life personally. I'm a client, if you will, first time. I heard this podcast with Ken, this guy Ken, and you. I got his email because we're going to do it. We're going to provide your email, your links, everything. We want you guys to get into her space because knowledge is knowledge, and knowledge brings freedom, and freedom is where you begin to live. I am this individual just called you up, got in touch, and they are into one of your classes. They signed up. What is the process by which you are now going to begin that relationship with that individual, and describe some of those different services that you provide for once they come to you?
So first of all, I probably would love to mention YouTube channel, because I do talk a lot, I do share knowledges, I do share how astrology works. So if there is given slightest curiosity, I would say that just like go there and listen. And if it resonates, if like person likes the way I explain things or I talk about things, then maybe it's a good start. I recently started the series Astrology Lessons for Beginners.
Mhm.
So they're there on YouTube for free, so you can learn how the tool works and you can start getting a little bit into it. Because there are such people who, they love to explore things, like look at them, like think something, like taste it a little bit before like going all in. And I am that kind of person. I like to do researches. So it's all there. You can go there, make a research, like see, you like it, you don't like it. You don't like it, it's fine. But like if you feel connected, like if things are like resonated, then yeah, then there is more. Soon there will be like a proper course for people who really want to like master the tool.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be like a profession. It's like it could be like on the basic level, but it's more of like understanding who you are and like who people around are, like what's going on. Or people can come to a consultation because this is the quickest way to understand what's going on. But I always ask a question. It's like when you come, you need to have a question in mind. Like, what do you want to know? Because when people come with an attitude, tell me something.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the sky is blue.
Yeah.
It's just something. So yeah, and usually it's for people who, for example, as I am many years ago, I felt lost and I was like, okay, why things are not working? Why all my manifestations are not working? And this is actually, yeah, the thing. For some people, this like power of manifestation, it works. For some people, it works during certain periods. So it's not a very stable thing. And when people are trying to teach it,
Yeah.
always make me a little bit, mm, I don't know, like, I cannot say angry, but I feel that it's not fair because it doesn't work for everyone. I mean, like, yeah,
And there's
positive thinking and stuff, but like different people, they have different tools, like different ways of making things happen, and especially during different periods. So whenever you feel that things are not working, or you don't see the path, or you don't understand how to change something, so then it's a good time to dig into astrology when you feel that there is some obstacle and you cannot comprehend what is it. So then astrology is definitely a tool.
Yeah, and guys, I've been telling you from day one with the podcast, there are many tools out there that we can utilize to assist us with our personal development. Which one fits in your space, in your being? That's the one you go after, because when you do that, you will receive faster. And another thing that I've always said to them, Sasha, always come prepared. Don't come, as Sasha said, don't come, oh, just give me some. No, do some work. Do some work, meaning go inside, ask those questions, those internal questions within your being, so that when you present to your coach, your astrologer, whoever that you have chosen that you want to be before, that when you're coming ready. And when you come like that, you will always receive something. But if you are not, you haven't done the work. And some people are lazy and they expect you to do the work, but the work comes with you. Go inside, and seek what is that question did you want to ask in there. And when you come, because it'll be sitting there, and when you come and you sit before Sasha and you ask that question, it'll spark something inside of her because she's familiar with the energy that you're asking that question with. And so she'll be able to assist you and you'll get your desired outcome. Sasha, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. I want to ask you this question. I've been asking this because I feel sometimes that individuals like yourself, empathetic individuals that have gone through much, and we are in a different time, if you will. 2025, I think where we're at is this February sometime, I think. Here we are in this time in our progression as a human being, as humans on this planet. What is it that you are sensing? If you had a mic, Sasha, and that mic is connected to every mobile phone, every TV, everything that is communication with man, what would be your statement to us?
Start from the question, who am I? Then ask yourself, what am I doing here? And then like how I can do it the best way possible. If I just need to make it quick and wrap it up. So start asking questions.
Yeah. I think that's the key to it. One must ask. I grew up in a church, Sasha, and I remember this is one of my favorite scriptures ever. When the Bible says, God says, come and let us reason together. I was like, yeah, that is the coolest thing I ever heard, because here is this ultimate power interested in having a conversation with me, an exchange of minds, of thoughts. And so come, let's reason together. Let's talk, show up in Sasha's space. Again, we're going to provide all of those things. Take a look at her product that she has on YouTube. See, learn her classes about astrology, how she sees that, and how she utilizes in the personal development of the individual, because it's proof in her life. Show up, question within yourself, and change your life. Sasha, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me, Ken.
It was an honor.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.